Welcome to On Target, your go-to podcast to lead, love, and live as Central Region unapologetically serves all mankind. Here's your host, Kiana W. Davis, Central Regional Director for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Welcome to another episode of On Target Podcast. I'm Kiana W. Davis, your host and Central Regional Director of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. In this episode, Soar Sister, we shine a spotlight on remarkable journeys of women-led businesses. So join us as our guests share their experiences, strategies, and their secrets to success. This episode is all about celebrating the entrepreneurial spirit of women and learning how to start, market, and even elevate your business to new heights. She is a recognized young professional who's achieved local and national acclaim. As an All-American athlete in 2014, she's no stranger to the spotlight. From coaching varsity basketball to championing community causes, she's making an impact that resonates far beyond the game, any game. She is also the founder and CEO of the 25th Hour LLC, which is a multimedia company. And so without further ado, let's welcome Deysha Smith Jenkins to share her journey of entrepreneurship and empowerment.
Thank you so much for having me, Madam Regional Director. I'm honored.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming. So I was telling Deysha before we were getting all started here with the setup, I said, first of all, they left me to all the devices to kind of point and click. But beyond that, I'm taking this podcast from home, which talking about home as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have to do work at home, in an office, at client's office, etc. And so I'm really excited about this particular conversation because it hits near and dear to my heart. So I want to know more about you. I think the listening audience wants to know about you. So tell us about you, your journey, and your company, 25th Hour LLC.
Well, first, I think I've always had the entrepreneur spirit since I was a little girl. If I wasn't selling lemonade at my grandpa's barbershop, I was selling my drawings like I was Pablo Picasso. And so when I went to school to run track, I knew that ultimately, I wanted to work for myself. I didn't know when that was going to be. I thought when I retired, I have my kids and I can kind of try to do something on my own. But I went to school and many trials and errors through my career. And I found out that I really didn't enjoy working for other people.
Don't we all? As entrepreneurs, you wake up and say, you know what? I don't want to work for them.
Yes. And it wasn't because I didn't want to learn, but I just wanted to grow and kind of move at my own pace. And so I went to school in Connecticut, ran track, and then I moved back to the Midwest, to Chicago. And I was spending more money on the commute to work than I was saving. So I said, Mom and Dad, I need to move back home to Wisconsin, kind of figure it out. And my dad said, well, you got to get a job. And my father has been in education for 30 years. He was like, just go into substitute teaching. And so I did. And while I was fulfilled with the children and meeting them, I wasn't fulfilled personally because I know I didn't go to school for that. And so the blessing in disguise happened. The pandemic hit and we kind of all got back in our creative minds. And I said, as soon as we return to work, I'm going to resign because I know that I'm not living in my purpose and this no longer brings me joy. And so that's how I started my business. We always talk about there's not enough hours in the day. So what would you do if you had an extra hour? Me personally, I would tell stories and film content. And so that's how I came up with the 25th Hour.
I love that. I think I like stories where the dotted line is not that clear. So you went from being an All-American athlete to kind of this role of finding and organizing this new company. And I think for those that are listening, they would appreciate just the idea of where you were when you were that athlete, doing something completely different than what you're doing now.
Well, actually, I feel like being a student athlete and entrepreneur kind of go hand in hand. So track is a individual sport, but you're on a team. And so you have your trial and error. You're constantly working on your craft with your coach. You got to hit your times. You have to study, ask questions. But you have this big team that's cheering you on and that wants to see you win. Similar to being a business owner, you're going through your trial and error. You're hearing from the client what they want, what they don't want. But you have this large network of other business owners and entrepreneurs that are cheering you on, that want to see you win. So I approach any client or new project like I'm preparing for a race. I'm doing the homework. I'm researching this company so that when it's time to line up on that line, when it's time to deliver this product, I'm ready to go.
I love that. I guess that there is a correlation, right? You're one of many. And that idea of entrepreneurship, when you sometimes in your business, you're the only one, but you're probably surrounded by a lot of people on the journey to help you. So I like that. Okay, I like that. I'll give you that. I definitely will. I'm not an athlete. I played a little tennis, definitely back in my day, but not to the extent that you are an athlete. So I see the correlation there. So tell me more about what is 25th Hour LLC. What does, in the idea of multimedia, the business that you've built?
Well, first it started off, I went to school for broadcast journalism, and I knew I never wanted to do the news, but I wanted to tell stories. No way.
I did. That was my first, when I went on college, it was broadcast journalism. Got enrolled in the journalism school, everything. I thought I was going to be the next Oprah.
I can see it. Do we need to start a talk show? I think so. But yeah, so I knew I never wanted to do the news just because there's so much more than the day to day. I want to know people's stories. And so initially I would do voiceover work and I would tell the small stories of business owners in Milwaukee. But I also knew that multimedia consists of so much more than that. This was way before podcasts. This was voiceover work for books. This was voiceover work for social media stories. And I started with just my phone because there's so many different things that an iPhone can do. And then I invested in a camera, and I was just like, there's so many different ways to look at journalism or media. So I would just consume myself in the television, whether it was a sports show or whether it was, Oprah, old episodes of Oprah, Jennifer Hudson's show, The Real. And I would just see how all these women were telling different stories. And so that's where the multimedia piece comes in, because you're either listening to it, you're watching it, or you're reading it. So I didn't want to just be one thing and limit myself to that. So that's why I added the multimedia. And then we have social media because we're always on our phones. So that's where the content creation comes in.
Okay. Well, your role as in stadium co-host reaches like millions of fans, but could you share some behind the scenes glimpse of what it's like to engage with such a vast audience and how you maintain your level of energy and enthusiasm?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a huge hometown girl, hometown fan. So it almost doesn't feel like work. It's like I get a front row to watching, your favorite players. And so instead of maintaining this excitement and energy, I'm trying to calm my nerves and my personal excitement. But I stopped drinking coffee before games because I would be jittery. And I'm like, I'm nervous. But I'm like, they breathe the same way I do. And I'm a student athlete, once a student athlete, always a student athlete. I'm watching athletes, perform at the highest level. So I'm just a huge fan, hometown girl that just happens to have this really cool job. And I recognize the opportunity that I have. And so engaging with fans is just like talking to my family on the couch if I'm at home. It doesn't even feel like a job.
It doesn't feel like a job.
It doesn't feel like a job at all. I mean, granted, I'm very happy that I'm getting compensated for it, but it's a lot of fun. And I've met so many incredible athletes.
So this space of kind of multimedia, social media, and with the rise of digital content that some of us are still trying to navigate through, and that level of consumption, marketing strategies really have evolved. I remember back, 20, 30 years ago to put an ad in a newspaper. And now we're coming to kind of how do you measure clicks on a post? But what are some innovative approaches you've taken to connect with your audience in this area to generate kind of that interest in your multimedia offerings?
Well, the one thing that helps is people love seeing people. And so we have all these various social media platforms. We have TikTok. We have Instagram, LinkedIn. But what I tell my clients is if it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't try to be something that you're not. Recognize who your audience is. So let's say, for example, I have one client that's a high school and they're catering to kids. I'm like, kids want to see kids. Kids want to do the fun stuff. They want to do the TikTok dances, make it relevant to them. Don't have, the teachers doing all the videos, have the students who want to see other students do the videos. And then also you want to see your principal kind of in a different atmosphere. The principal wants to be fun and relatable. But then if I have like a corporate client, do we want to see you do a TikTok dance? Not necessarily, but we want to see your personality. We want to know the person with inside the president. We see the president every day show up to work, but who's the person? What are they doing when they're at home? So it's all about showing the human features of these people.
I like that because as I thought even about the sorority, the regional media presence and social media presence, I'm always keen to say, what does consumption look like for the person looking at this? And up until recently, it was kind of the static posts, the flyers, etc. And then I started thinking about what you just said. What do people like to see? Even on my own social media platforms, I say, what do people like to see? And they do. They want to see you in a very human form that is aligned with their either perception of you or who they believe you are. And so, but they want a glimpse. They maybe not everything, but just a glimpse of the everyday in this kind of ecosystem that they believe you live in. And I thought through that even for the sorority. I think people, when they want to consume this stuff, they want to see how chapters are doing things, how individual members are going out there, whether in their personal professional lives or within the sorority. They want to see those level of highlights. So I can appreciate that. And I never thought about that, right? Because I am coming up in an age where, when I came up, there was no social media. Actually, I don't think I had email until my junior year of college. And so coming up through all of that, understanding how do we use social media, multimedia to tell that story so that we can get the information to the people it needs to get to, but also maybe motivate them to do something. And that's really what you're doing, is just motivating them to do something. So speaking about that, for those that are listening, there are some people who are not entrepreneurs, but they want to be, right? We all have been in that cross section of life where, for many of us who have decided on the path of entrepreneurship, we were at that crossroads and then we made a decision. But for you and your story, how would you really mentor, give advice to those that are really at that crossroads of, do I make this decision of entrepreneurship or not? And how do you encourage them to balance their passions? Like for you, your passion for education, sports, entertainment, how does that all come together so that, as you said earlier, it's really not a job?
Well, I have a philosophy, if it's not bringing you joy, then you can't do it. If you're waking up every day and you're going to your job and you're dreading it, then you have to stop. We're not put on this earth to live unhappy lives. We're here to live in our purpose, and live full lives. And so I would say you have to just do it. You have to take that dive and leap of faith. And lucky for me, I've had an incredible support system. And so it's been like word of mouth, how I get these jobs. When I first started this entrepreneurship journey, I was still working on the side because I'm like, okay, I'm investing a lot in my dream, and I know, in the long run I'm going to see it. But right now, I'm putting a lot in, and you have to trust that there's going to be a lot of trial, a lot of error, a lot of tears, but you have to know that it's going to get better. I'm a faith filled person. So I did a lot of prayer, a lot of God, if this isn't the journey I'm supposed to be on, let me know. And
Absolutely.
he has supported me through and through, even when I think that I won't have enough. Here comes a huge client, more opportunities. So I would say you have to just take that leap of faith, and know that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and that you're going to learn a lot, and not be afraid to ask questions and tap into your network. If you're not asking for help, how is someone going to know you need it? So my long-winded answer would be just do it, like Nike. Otherwise you'll live with shoulda, coulda, woulda, and you look up and it's 10 years and I should have done it. And so yeah, that's what I did.
I do. I think that part of the journey is you have to be willing to overcome fear,
Absolutely.
and take risk. And for some, it might not be what is in the prescription of your journey.
Mhm.
And that's okay, because not everyone is aligned with that level of risk that you have to take. When you are an entrepreneur, sometimes you put out more than in that season you're getting back. But you have to look at it as an investment. And it is
Absolutely.
a total investment into the dream that you have for this. And if you're not believing in what you're putting together, then no one else will believe that. And the way people believe that you believe is when you make those types of investment in time, talent, and money. And it does require that, definitely. And I think it's also important for Black women to see other Black women taking the leap and say, and demonstrating to them that it is possible, and you don't need the wherewithal of a multi-trillion-dollar financial institution to do it. And that network actually is the best way to start and build a business. And that's why I say you have to treat everybody well, because you
Yeah,
never know when you're going to need them, right? And
absolutely.
that is a gold coin for entrepreneurship on the journey. Treat everybody well. And I'm sure you've treated everyone well, because it looks like when we talk about building business, I just want to hear more about the idea of word of mouth and how that has played in you building your business.
Well, actually, my very first big client, I pitched myself. So I developed these packages and I said, hey, this is what you're missing. Have you ever thought about this? And they're like, no, I haven't thought about this. Well, what does that look like? And so there's nothing like having a blank canvas and being able to kind of draft and create these different ideas. And, that worked with that client. And then I had another client reach out and say, hey, I saw the work that you did for this school. We would like to do something like that. So that's first how it started, with the word of mouth. I was doing these human interest stories for different schools here. And then I had my first corporate client reach out, and they wanted to introduce their staff. And so I'm like, let's do corporate videos that you can post on your website, but social media I feel like should be fun. And so that goes back to these personality videos. And who's your CEO when they're at home, besides being a mother or a father, or wife or a husband? Who are they as an individual? What do they like to do? And it's not just fun facts. It's maybe a hidden talent, or maybe they have a side hustle. And I feel like that is the best type of inner working network and ice breaking that you can do within a company. I think when I did those videos, it was like a full day of filming. Employees learn more about each other during those film sessions than I'm sure they did in any networking thing that they had at work, because they saw their coworkers laughing and answering silly questions that I had. I had music. And so that was like the word of mouth. They saw different videos on their social media, and they're like, who did your videos? And then I was able to do the regional conference because the Soar from our chapter was like, hey, do you think you can come up with a teaser video? I'm like,
Which is
sure.
wonderful.
So there's a lot of times I might not have done, a certain type of video, but I'm always ready for a challenge. And it goes back to being a student athlete. So if I don't know how to do it, I promise you, I'm spending that extra hour, that 25th hour, trying to figure out how to do it, or I'm asking questions. And that's one thing I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid of constructive criticism, because you don't know the answer unless you ask.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you did a wonderful job on our teaser video. And I believe the video, I think, was at the welcome reception that we did. And so we'll make sure that our audience, if they're going to be on YouTube, sees a glimpse of what you put together for us. So, Sister Deysha, I really appreciate you sharing your journey with us. And we will make sure that everyone knows how to get in contact with you. But for those that are not going to be viewing this on YouTube, tell us how we can get in contact with 25th Hour LLC.
Well, you can find, on September 22nd, the 25thhour.com will be live. That is my birthday gift to myself. I'll be the big 30, and that's my birthday gift. My website relaunched. But for right now, you can find me on Instagram at the 25th Hour LLC.
So make sure you guys go follow her, give her some likes. If you're in the space where this is the type of product or service you need, guys, we are here all about supporting women entrepreneurs, and especially those that are our members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I believe that it is one of the ways to generate generational wealth is business ownership. And so we are definitely going to promote that and promote you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And we'll talk next time on Target.